What if this whole time, all you've been missing was a different perspective? You don't need any more advice. You need clarity. I'm Meghan Mason, and this is Clarity Calls. Hello, everyone. Today I am talking with an interesting soul, Cathy Hawk. Cathy is the co-founder of Clarity International alongside her husband, Dean, where they've spent over 30 years helping people find clarity, purpose, and direction in their life. I thought it was really interesting and definitely not a coincidence when Cathy was recommended to me by a mutual friend. She said, "You had to have Cathy on your podcast." She has a company called Clarity International. And I was like, well, what are the odds? I'm Clarity Calls and she's Clarity International. I definitely think that we would have a good conversation. So I knew it was aligned and meant to be. So I had reached out to Cathy. So Cathy, I am so honored to have you here today and find out all about what you offer, what you stand behind. So thank you for coming on.
Well, I'm glad to be here. When we were chatting just when we opened, you said that part of your mission with your podcast was to assist people on their journey, and that I thought that would be a really interesting way for us to start. Because
Yeah.
when I started Clarity 32 years ago, so obviously, given that 32 years, I was a pioneer in the coaching industry. It was just becoming a profession. There just weren't a lot of tools.
Yeah.
And my gift is being able to listen to divine guidance and create tools. That's just my job here on Earth University. So that's what I was doing when I started coaching. And I realized that so the Clarity operating system has three parts, and that's what I think your listeners want to know. So, first of all, is finding out what lights you up. Now, that's easy to say in words, but what I did was when I was starting coaching, I realized that when people hit upon something that really created energy in their physiology, it showed up physiologically as lights on, and you could see third eye markers, you could see changes in eye, you could see balance come into their face if it was off balance. And so I started a coaching methodology that we film people before we do a clarity interview. We film them after. There are changes. It's on my website. They can easily see the examples. Um,
Yeah.
People's physiology changes profoundly when they focus on things that bring them energy. Now, energy in the body shows up as serotonin and oxytocin and endocrine, basically. But I could film that, and then I could say to people, well, we're talking about this possibility to change, what people wanted to change something. So they were like stuck and didn't know which way to go. And I say, so this one over here, where your light's on, brought you more energy, and therefore you'll have more flow. So that's how that started, and I got it trademarked, and it was one of the early tools in the coaching industry. The
Yeah. I can't imagine to start something like that many years ago because, 30 years later, it's still a taboo topic to talk about, like you were talking about inner guidance or divine guidance.
Mhm.
How would you explain to our audience what divine guidance is?
Well, although when I started, we didn't have the science behind it, what I noticed was this spark coming into people.
Yeah.
And then I got really curious about it, and I started to study with people who were doing work at that time. Now you got to dial back the clock, and it's probably before some of your listeners were born, which is wonderful because it takes a lot of change in society to get people to understand that we're here for a purpose. And
Yeah.
purpose is what lights you up. That's what might be called the divine spark. I mean, whatever language you want to use. So, I studied with one of the leaders at the time of New Thought, Deepak Chopra, and I
Mm.
taught at his, so he invited me to speak there with my methodology. And I did, and I met a lot of other thought leaders, and we have collaborated over the years. And that's when I realized, they're like epiphanies where you go like, there's a reason that people are being shown their light. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what could that be? That's my curiosity.
Yeah.
And then the message, the information that I got was that we're here as souls on a journey. Now, not everybody believes that, and that might be, 32 years ago, it was really cutting edge. Now I think it's, much more grounded. So behind
Yeah.
me, you'll see the image of a river. And so I worked by listening carefully, following guidance, your question, which for me, let's back up. What's guidance? Maybe that'll
Yeah.
help. Some people hear messaging from the fields around them. So science has proven that outside our head, we are actually physically, it's invisible, but our thoughts are connected to what's called the quantum field. The quantum field has all the information in it that of the universe. There are lots of other ways to say that, Akashic records and so on. But scientifically, let's stick with that, and that's quantum field. So our thoughts are outside of our head, and thoughts come in. If you more hear them, you're called clairaudient. If you're seeing them, you're clairvoyant. If you feel them, you're clairsentient. But not, and all of that said, we're receiving signals from somewhere outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I then built my coaching methodology again around, so that people would realize that on their soul's journey there is a flow pattern. And in our book, we wrote the story of one of our early, when I was sketching out this map. Obviously it's been graphically designed,
Yeah.
but when I was sketching it out, and he was so typical of what you opened with, which is people realize that things are shifting and they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And he was so scared, and I had this map all sketched out on a big piece of butcher paper, all hand drawn, around my coaching studio. And he said, well, tell me about this. And the minute he saw that there was a flow, a river past where he was stuck, he said, that gives me hope. And that's what it
Oh,
ended up for people to know that wherever you are on your journey, there is a place that's coming. And that has really been, oh, I would say the most, I don't know, makes people happy the most to know that.
it is because a lot of people, well, everyone feels probably lost in this life at some point or another. Sometimes it feels like it could be flowing down the river, and then all of a sudden, something happens in their life. And even though they have gotten over so many things in the past, during that moment, they feel like they can't get over it again and they're just stuck. And yeah, to be able to just have that knowing that it's going to flow again. Like you can find that flow, it's going to keep moving. That definitely is a gift to people. And I know so many people out there that are searching for that, or just to know that, just to be able to understand that and give them that peace of mind. So you're doing great work out there.
Yeah, it's really just so nourishing, for me and for other people to know that wherever they are, on a flow pattern. So I then took the leap of saying out loud, that we're here, we're souls here on a journey to get something of purpose done. And when we do get stuck, and when we call it in our book, we open with, do you have clarity amnesia? And I mean, that's kind of tongue in cheek. Um,
Yeah.
but
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Can you tell the audience what the name of the book is?
yeah, it's called Get Clarity.
Nice.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, easily gotten on Amazon.
Nice.
Or if you let me know if someone wants a copy, my assistant can get it to you. Um,
Perfect.
so, so we're on a soul's journey, and not everybody believes that. They don't, they're not of that thought form.
Yeah.
And so what I found out as I listened carefully, I call on my guides and my angels. They dictated this river. Now it's easy to see, but there's a start. It's easier to see here than behind me. But we start here with what lights you up, and then it follows the twists and turns. Now, obviously, finding your soul's purpose is not a straight line. It is as people always say, like, oh, another curve, another curveball, or a stuck place on the river. We call them eddies, just like
Okay.
in real rivers.
Yeah.
There are swirling spots, and there are several eddies, in everyone's river. Um, and how people at a choice point can choose an action that works better or lights on than the one they're doing. And that's what helps people get unstuck, or unstuck's probably not a word, but
No, that's fine.
out of the
So,
eddy.
yeah, do you think that people have a choice to stay stuck? Like, I know some people feel like they're stuck forever, and maybe it's like months or years. It seems like this, you know, bad happenings or, whatever they might think. But do you think that they can choose to get out of it earlier? Does it have to drag on as long as some situations do?
Yes. Actually, although I didn't know that again when I started because they didn't have functional MRIs to help us see what happens in your brain when you make a choice.
Hmm.
And I mean a choice for either more energy, which kicks the serotonin response in, versus making choices from fear,
Yeah.
which is adrenalized. So in answer to your question, yes, you can change. Science says that you can switch that physiological marker for in 125 thousandths of a second. So boom, yes, make a choice. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm
Yeah.
going to do, but that's negative. The saying I'm not going to do this, that doesn't work. You have to say, I'm going to do something differently. I'm going to choose something else. Then it takes 17 seconds neurologically for your whole neural network to adjust itself to, like, whoa, we're going in a different direction here. And then your body. It's like I think the best way to say it, Megan, is it's a body yes. That's what lights on feels like.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, that's the one, that's the direction I'm going to go. In answer to your question, however, about being drained and stuck, yes. Actually, there have been studies on what's called self-actualized behavior, or doing what you love, and
Hmm.
which is self-actualizing. And there was a first on the river, there is a place here where people get stuck. They swirl, and you see on an energy meter. So I always think of your energy on a scale of 1 to 10, like, woohoo, I'm lights on, or I'm not. No right or wrong. So that doesn't say right and wrong. It's so people can get themselves stuck. And that's why my guides made it look like a sandbar. So you're just stuck. And
Yeah.
they're swirling here under this metaphoric bridge. And it says passion, habits, and drama. So people keep repeating their habits and their drama. Now, at some
Yeah.
point, they're at a choice point and they say, again, I'm going to do this differently. They
Yeah.
jump above the line and they get into flow. And that's actually how it works. And above, it says passion, vision, discovery. I've got energy and flow, and then they can launch their new idea. And then you see the energy meter comes up. These these maps are easily gotten on our website. It's getclarity.com. And the you know, the best is to ask for a paper version of it. It's also in the back of our book, because it's so important, I think, for people to have this visual in front of them and to realize that there's going to be twists and turns, and there's times when we can't see around a curve.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the choice point is to hold on to your energy and just be patient. And people aren't necessarily patient. So,
No.
um, but as long as they're looking towards the future in a way that lights them up, the timing will come. And my work is to make sure people are in the right boat, or the lights on, is how I help them know they're in the right purposeful boat. And then they have to flow with it, because there's gonna be a tomorrow. And then it's a matter of, am I imagining, revisioning, and repurposing my tomorrow? And
Yeah.
Megan, it can be a little step. I mean, some people get themselves so wound up and they're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I have to like jump off a cliff or rewrite my whole life. No. What happens is, if you can take one step at a time, this lights on, your body cellularly adjusts to that, and things start to, I would say magically happen, but it's actually the science of synchronicity. And it feels magical. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you say to someone that says, I don't know what makes my lights go on? Like, do you have a way of bringing up all different types of, like, someone doesn't know what, I guess, like, I know somebody specifically that is struggling to find a job,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep going after the same type of job, not get anywhere. And to me, I feel like you need to shift. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just not what you're doing. Maybe you gotta, yeah, just how you described it. I love that you put words to it, but find what puts your lights on.
Yeah.
And the person says, I don't know what puts my lights on. Talk me through how you would help them to find their lights on.
Absolutely. In our book, and they don't have to read it because I'm going to tell them right now how to do it. What we have you do is an exercise where you're a 24-hour energy detective. Now, what we're having you detect is not just a great idea, because we get stuck in our heads and we have all this great idea. Like you're saying, this person, oh, I'm going to keep applying for that kind of job because, whatever, that's what I know, or I have a degree in it, or whatever.
Yeah,
And it's not working. So the clue is it's not working. And then what we have you do as an energy detective is to spend 24 hours paying real attention. So this takes presence and not distracted, not trying to do it while you're watching a show or listening to a podcast or whatever. That you devote 24 hours to yourself, to make a list. And we literally have people write it down, because it's so easy to lose stuff if you don't write it down. So you make a list of what lit you up, and a list of what drained you. And then after 24 hours, so don't try to think it out, just take notes. And then when you take a look at what lights you up list, there'll be some clues in there. And So let's say your friend is applying for a desk job. Let's just say that. And they find out when they list it that what's been draining them is sitting in a chair looking at a blue screen all day. And they noticed that what lit them up was being outdoors, taking a walk, being in nature. Now that seems really like duh, except that that's a clue that the next type of work they might look towards it's like a puzzle piece, Megan, of taking these pieces and seeing where they fit. So maybe something they could do that would get them outside more, or picking up a hobby that gets them out so that it diminishes the drain of sitting at a desk. So they begin to know themselves at an energy level instead of an idea level. Ideas are important. That's left brain.
Yeah.
Energy and is the more visual. EQ is right brain. And you got to put both of them together. And that's the best way to do it. Your best EQ, emotional intelligence clues come from what energizes me. What do I love to do? And that's how people, the bulk of my client base has always been entrepreneurs or, founders of companies. And because they literally think to themselves, what would I love to do? What do I have within me as a talent base that I could use to start something? And a lot of people start them as a parallel. They're kind of getting paid by one entity, a job, while they begin to build something else. So those are great ways to do about it. What you find out about yourself as an energy detective is really fun. Oh,
I bet. I think everybody in this world could use this because I think we all struggle to know ourselves and um I know. So I had my story is kind of crazy. Just the last few years has literally flipped overnight, and I started sensing spirits. I went from working like a typical, 8 to 5 job,
hmm.
and then my whole life got flipped upside down. And I started sensing spirit, and I'm like, what is happening? And yeah, it's lit me up though. It lit me up where I knew like I am not meant to be at an office job. Like I've never liked working at an office job. Thank goodness the office jobs that I've worked, I've been able to travel. So that lit me up and,
Yeah.
got me out of the building. Um, but when this started kind of I noticing my spiritual abilities, I just started following the breadcrumbs, but the podcast really lights me up. I love hearing what people can offer and help, and we can just kind of all come together. And I swear, every episode I do, I'm like smiling ear to ear
Yeah.
genuinely
Yeah.
from hearing people's stories and what they have to offer and what like they're passionate about. Like it brings me joy. Um, but it wasn't an easy decision to start the podcast because I felt like, well, what's happening? These are spiritual abilities. Am I supposed to be a medium? Like, am I supposed to be a channeler? Like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? And I do keep getting more tugged into the podcast of this lights you up, Megan.
Yeah.
I might not know where it's leading me on that river, that you're showing on your map, but I'm here for the ride.
Well, and that's what that noticing is. So let's track that back. That's exactly the same track that your listeners can use. So you notice that you're getting drained or lights off, we would call that, because
Yeah.
that's physiologically true, actually. You have
Yes.
less cellular energy when you're being drained. And then you said like something there said, I'm not going to do this anymore, and you started to listen differently. You then were tuning into spirit, and then you got some answers, and then you got your courage up, and then you made a try, and notice that it did light you up. And that's that energy detective piece, so that we're not stuck in that eddy, like just like on the river, just doing the same thing over and over again. And there's a place on the river a little further down. You're down that trail because you've already done that. You've listened, you've changed, you've shifted, you've turned things upside down. Where the clarity person, that's what we call the person there with their heart, and feet, that they learn the lesson. They swirled around, they asked the right questions, they tried something new, and now they're out in bigger flow. And that's what it feels like. So, um, so people will often ask, so I'll just make a question that's probably rummaging around everyone's head. Well, what if what really want to do isn't going to support me? Because, I've got to be practical. I have to get a paycheck, all of the have tos.
Yes.
And that's all important because in this culture we're living in, you have to have money. I mean, it just works. I mean, maybe there'll be a day where we don't do that, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So following your soul's journey says that you will do again what it is you need to practically meet the requirements of living in this culture. And then what you'll do is you'll begin to do these other things that light you up. And then the more light you get in your system, the more system your body shifts, the more answers come in, the more that and that's being connected to spirit. So the more you're connected to spirit, and the spirit will give you more information because they know it's like they know you're listening. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And and then you'll get more, and I'll move the camera around here and I'll point you to, as I leave my office every day, I remind myself, I hope people can see it, your body, so that's either lights on or lights off, is the landing spot for your soul. So if your soul is incarnated this lifetime and it wants to have a purpose, and it needs to find it. The energy clues that we're given, we all humans are given, is the energy of light. And there's just so much being discovered about that in the quantum field now. And I was very fortunate 32 years ago to realize when I saw light coming into people's system, I'm like, I've got to film that for them. They've got to see the difference because if I see it, that doesn't help them. They have to
Yeah.
get like, oh, I did change. Oh, my body was saying yes to something. Oh, if my body says yes, I'll take an action that reinforces that yes. And that's what you did with the podcast. So,
Yeah. I think it's really hard for people to know what their yeses and nos were. That wasn't even like a concept I ever thought about before. But I had a mentor like a year ago who talked about understanding and knowing what your yes feels like and knowing
mhm,
what your no feels like. A
mhm,
lot of times I think we try to force and talk ourselves into doing something that is not good for us because that's what society is telling us,
yeah,
or family
yeah,
beliefs or whatever it might be.
yeah,
And I remember going through this little journey of learning what my yeses are. And for me, it is instant. I have absolutely no thought with it. I'm not trying to
yeah.
talk myself into something, or like it is sometimes it feels so robotic when and then sometimes I look back like, oh, who was that person that just like agreed to that big decision?
Yeah.
I don't even recognize her. And but that is like my true yes. I am just like, let's dive into this. Let's do it.
And that's the distinction. It's not an idea based, it is based in your body. That's why knowing that your body is what's giving you the clues. Now, do we have ideas? Yes, absolutely. That's IQ, that, it's left brain dominant. It's hugely important for balance. But when we film people, we film them like this and like this so that we get a right brain, left brain light, third eye light. And that way, their physiology is speaking to them all the time
Yeah.
about, just what you're saying. There's no, when your light's on, there's no um, wobbling in it. It is so clear. A body, yes, it is so clear. And the functional MRIs now show that. They show the lights coming on everywhere. And
Yeah.
but most of us and our culture, we're living in a culture that doesn't respect that or make allowances for it. So back to your question about how many studies in self-actualized behavior say that 90% of the world population lives here. And that's not right and wrong. That's what's very important. They live in stuck patterns, habits, and drama. And what happens? They just get drained and stuck. It
Yeah.
doesn't say they're bad people. It doesn't say they haven't taken all the courses and listened to all it doesn't say that. It just says that when you're in those stuck places, you're literally just reinforcing being stuck. So therefore, even one idea, one message that creates a body, yes, just what we call lights on. And when people activate that, they put it into action. That's why we have it in the energy detector, and we ask people to write it down. Because I don't know if you're familiar with the Buddhist term monkey mind, but monkey mind will just chatter and it's like, oh, that's not important. No, you can't do that. Oh, that takes a lot of money. You'll never make, you're going to starve if you do that. That's monkey mind. But when you write it down, when you go back and you look at it and you see that that lights on clue actually links up with something else that you noticed and felt, and then you begin to have some actionable items. Yeah. And you did it. You did your podcast.
I did.
And it
Yeah,
was
and
fun.
just for the audience sake, like I actually started another podcast, and my co-host ended up having health issues, and we had to stop it. So, I do like that you show that image of like this river because it is just like that. I'm thinking I'm going down this river. I'm excited. I started a podcast, and then we had to stop it. And I'm thinking, oh no, like I really like this. This is like what I'm meant to do. And I could have went into this stuck mindset and not continued to flow down the river. But I did have to check back in with myself and my spirit team and be like, okay, am I still supposed to do this? Like, was that a sign that I was supposed to stop and like this isn't the path I'm supposed to go? But no, I got a resounding yes, go keep going, just you're gonna branch off on your own. And it was all meant to be. And I don't think that starting with somebody else and then switching this was it didn't set me back. It was my purpose. I There was a reason that her and I did it together. We were able to kind of dive off the cliff together. So then it
Yeah.
was easier to go off on our own. And I see that now. There was a brief moment where panic was starting to come in, but yeah, it's not always a smooth journey, but it's meant to be.
Well, yeah, and you look on that. So if everything is as it should be, so that would be, we would talk about perfection from that standpoint. Um, then what you learned during that experience is what made this podcast work even more smoothly than it might have. And that's where you look on all the things that we did in our life. Like I've heard people say, like, geez, that job, like I never should have done it. And then I'm like, okay, well, what did you learn? Oh,
Yeah.
I learned that and I learned that. And I said, great. So now if you transferred that, that becomes wisdom. Have you taken that wisdom forward into your next venture? Oh, yeah, I have. And then it's like, well, then go back and be grateful to that job. Say thank you. I didn't get it at the time, but wow, you were my proving ground, my, you know, tutor, my whatever you want to say. Because there is a point when we all cast off into a vision that we have an opportunity to step out of the river. You did it with a you stepped out and you all see where's the clear see they set sail and here they get advice, opinion, they get a lot of well, I would say naysayers have an opportunity,
Yeah. A lot of noise.
a lot of noise. And the clarity person, head, heart, feet. So if you know chakras, it's 741. They've stepped out of the river. They're taking a pause to reflect. And so our guides have them in a, beach chair. They're relaxing. When it says they're get coached, get feedback. So, and coach doesn't mean you have to hire a professional. What it means is you step out for a moment and you observe where you are and you take a look at what to step back in. What is it that lights me up? And that's exactly what you did. You've been following this river intuitively. Um, uh, just the reason the angels wanted a map for people. That's what my guide said. They said that in this culture, in this time, in this century, people need a visual map to follow because it's such a noisy, such a distracted culture. There's just so much busyness that even having a moment to reflect, to get out of the river and sit
Yeah.
in a lawn chair and look at everything, it is sometimes hard for people to do. So,
Yeah, it is honestly, it's a great tool. Just in the brief, time that we've had together, it has helped me piece together my journey and it matches up, perfectly of what I've experienced.
yeah,
But yeah, again, I know so many people that could benefit from seeing that map and doing your program and finding clarity because so many people are just hitting them, their heads against the wall of feeling stuck. You hear that all the time. Like, I just feel stuck. I don't know what my next step is. Like, what am I on the right path? It's that same spiral that they're just kind of stuck in over and
yes.
over.
And the way out is through. So and through means stopping, pausing. I think being an energy detective for a day is so fun because people aren't, it's just normal. We're going through our routines. And in the routines, the habits, the patterns, then we miss clues to where we feel alive again. And that's what the lights on piece is. It's like, where does energy start to come in to my body again? Where am I, getting rid of my head, literally, and
Yeah.
really paying attention to my body. So, um, yeah, so that you have been following that path
Yeah.
really quite intuitively. Listening to your guides, doing what you love, helping others learn to do what they love. And that's that service, that big service piece of purpose. If you're here on the planet for purpose this lifetime, then doing something that really helps others is where the heart connection, because we have our ideas It has to live in our body and our passion and our heart. And it has to be reflected in meaningful action. So it's not just talking about it, thinking about it, wishing about it, hoping about it, none of that. It'll have to go into action. Then you get the feedback. So the feedback comes when you go into action. So, like you
How do
did.
you encourage people to take action? Because I think I mean, they can have these ideas, they can find where their light goes on, they can get excited, but then mm, do you find that some of them stall and they don't actually want to take the action of what is very clear to be a path that they should take?
Hmm. Yeah, that, I think in coaching, in my work or helping people get where they're headed, the biggest thing that they have to overcome is inertia. They're stuck. They're just there and they can't see the way out. That's why the most important thing is to literally pick one thing that will light them up and do that so that physiologic their body, yes, can come back in and start giving them clues because it won't give them clues if you're stuck. I mean, if you're just sitting there thinking about it, the clues don't come as easily. I was coaching a woman once who's um, I mean, it's just this is a really good example of this. Um, is that she had gone to college to become an accountant because she happened to have a really high ability with left brain numbers. And her family, well meaning and loving, wanted her to get a career where she could take care of herself by being an accountant. And made
That happens so often.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, on a logical left-brained
Yes.
only piece of advice, then that made sense. What didn't work was when she started to go, by the time I met her as a sophomore, she was almost drained and had been diagnosed medically as having chronic fatigue. And I just looked at it and I was like, you might be have chronic fatigue, but you've just lost your energy to where you're spending all of your time. So
Oh,
when we did the lights on interview, um, she said, and you ask, is what's one thing that you love to do? And she said, I love my camera. I love to take pictures, but I don't have time. She said, I just don't, I'm too sick. I'm too tired. And I said, well, so here's your assignment. What you have to do is you've got to get out of bed. She was in bed and had been in the hospital actually. I said, you have to get out and you have to pick up your camera and you have to do even 10 minutes. And she ended up doing an hour, of course, because when she got moving, well, it reawakened in her right brain, which was where, when you when you look at life differently through the lens of a camera. Um, so it started to wake her body back up to some energy. Then, and the film, the difference in her pictures before and after are like night and day. And she took a gap year and got her energy back. During the gap year, she submitted a photo to a contest. And during the gap year, she got hired by National Geographic to photograph.
wow.
And that's mad. That's synchronicity. It's
Yeah.
like, who would have known? I mean, when
Right.
she got out of bed and picked up her camera, she didn't know she was going to submit a photo. She didn't know it was going to get, chosen. She didn't know she'd get a job. Now, did she go back and get her degree later? Yes, she did. Her nature is wanting to complete things.
Yeah.
Um, but she was able to do it with her full bodied energy. And so I hope that story is guidance for people that if you can pick up one thing that will begin to acquaint your body with body yeses, which is an endocrine system,
Yeah.
Then you're back.
So I think for the audience sake to understand, maybe that one thing that you start, so okay, I'm going to give you my example. So
Sure.
my one thing that I did was I started yoga. I have been asked to go to yoga for so many years and I never wanted to do it. It seemed boring, it seemed slow. I was just like, I don't want to do this. And when I was going through this a really tough year, I was guided by like a counselor, like you need to find something for yourself. Like your family is draining you, like being a mom, being a working mom at that, like
Uh,
you have to find something for yourself. And I was thinking, there's no way. Like my kids need me. I have to be at work. My husband needs me. Like that, where am I going to fit in time for me to do something for myself? But I did it. I tried it. It started off just like a couple times, and then I decided to commit. I was like, this is silly. You keep buying these small little packages, like 3 sessions here or a week session there. You have to commit.
yeah,
And at that point, I'm thinking, I don't have the money to get like a year pass. I have the time. But there was something in me that was saying, you have to do it. And I did. And I committed and I got the year pass. It has been a little over 2 years. I have not missed one single week of going. And I mean, it gave me time for myself. My kids still 2 years later asking, Mom, why do you go to yoga every day? But I let them know, like, it makes mommy strong. It makes me strong mentally, physically, emotionally. It clears my head. I come back with a smile on my face. I'm not overwhelmed. They don't see this stressed out mom. They see someone that can handle, the everyday chaos of having, a big family.
yeah.
Now, what I guess I was going to start off by saying is when you find that one thing, maybe it's not your end goal of like a career, but maybe it's just something that lights you up that can take you to that next step. And I know that happened for me.
Absolutely. That's why making the one action that's lights on is
Yes.
important. And so out of that, what it did is it led you to away from where you were drained and let the opportunity, it happened to be yoga, like for the woman that I spoke about, it was a camera.
Yeah.
It acquainted her body again with energy that was getting drained. It's like putting a plug in a bucket that's got a hole, and you
Yeah.
plug it up, and things will start to build again. What you also did, and I want to congratulate you, because the women in our culture, and men also, by the way, but we see it more in women, are learn to become martyrs. It's like, I'll, drain my, martyrdom is I'll kill myself for you, but,
Yeah.
but getting drained slowly is akin to that. What you're doing as a mom and a wife and a model is you're teaching your children and others around you that it's important to take care of yourself so that I mean, when you really think about your family and what would happen if you got really sick, got drained to the point where you were physically unwell, and that for many people, Megan, is their wake up call. They wait
Yeah.
till they get really sick, like the chronic fatigue diagnosis.
I
Um,
wanted to mention that because, yes, physical ailments, that is a huge cause. And I think people don't realize it. And then they just stay down because, well, I can't get out of bed. Yeah, I'm hurting. My back aches, like
yeah,
whatever it may be. And they
yeah,
don't realize that is the cause of them not going and finding their joy and their lights on.
yeah. And what we know now, just because of functional MRIs, is that when your brain changes its mind and focuses on something that's more positive, that within 125 thousandths of a second and 4/17 seconds, your body will begin to adjust itself. Now, does that mean you get to stay in bed if that, and no, it means you do what you can do. And for everything that you can do, it reinforces the strength of your body. And a lot of it, um, that was the second part of the clarity operating system for me was once people got in the right boat, in flow, figured out they were, going to go through the twists and turns. The thing that really nailed them was negative thinking. The I can't do it, the it won't work, all that whole spiral down. And so the second part of the clarity operating system is a way to shift your thoughts. And you use the word shift, and we literally call it shift. And it's like this. It's behind me. It's very complex, but we teach it in our coaching. But there's a gray line here, and the gray line in this says discomfort. And that's where you're not comfortable doing what you're doing. And then it shows above the line thought that works better with it's less effective, not right and wrong, but lights on, lights off. And these are actually measured in vibrational frequencies. If any of your listeners are into vibrational frequencies, that's also part of the system. And they're also based on where the thought lives in the body. So imagine your feet here and your head here, that's seventh chakra. So a fully aligned system where our thoughts are creating our actions. We go from effortlessness to high noticing. That means we're paying attention to authenticity, being true. We truly are. On the heart, we're dedicated. We're dedicated to our aliveness. In the gut, we're enthusiastic. In our reproductive organs, we're excited to create new things. And a grounding, we trust. And then the dark side, yep, like that. So the dark side or the less effective side of effortlessness is overdoing. Anyone listening gets busy, busy, busy and overdoes? Yes. Now, does effortlessness mean doing nothing? No. It means doing what you love with. So like when you do your podcast, you're working, but it feels effortless.
Yes. Hmm.
And that's what you're aiming toward. That's another clue. So instead of overdoing, and then the dark side of high noticing is habituation, just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then we have authenticity. Its dark side is self-importance. It's like knowing it all, not taking good coaching and advice from other people and so on and so on. So each thought above the line, and it says directional signal to the brain. Each one under the line, not good, bad, not right, wrong. It's effective, not effective. Flow, stuck. And so we get
All
to
that
choose.
relates. Yeah, I love that. I love that example. And again, live in a world where a visual is so helpful,
Yes.
especially. So I wanted to ask, are your clients typically on the like spiritual side, or I love how you talk about it's science, but then there's that spiritual, like it's bringing both sides together. So I think for our audience to listen, you don't necessarily have to be either, you know, to believe it.
Well, let's make the discernment between spiritual, soul-based noticing and religion.
Hmm.
I, that they're two different things.
Yes.
Religion is like a brand. of something, a style of doing something. Listening to spirit and listening to a soul's journey is not that. You don't have to be in a church, sitting in a wooden pew, doing something with someone else. Now, that's fine, no make wrong, but that's totally different. So, in answer to your question, does my client base and your listener base will tend to be attracted to the messaging? So they're going to say, oh, I've been wondering about that, not saying like, oh, that's nuts. So
Yeah.
law of attraction will say that when we tune into messaging that works for us, that we will recognize. It's like a radio station, Megan. The podcast is very much like that. The frequency, the when you tune into a so on the big chart, there's the megahertz here. So think of these as podcast frequencies, would be a way to say that. So you're talking up here, your messaging is coming from frequencies that say, I'm receptive, I'm passionate, I empower myself and others, I'm kind, I'm compassionate, I'm helping people manifest. So that you're talking that language, then people will hear it versus the under the line, which is fear. Oh, it's threatening. A message is threatening. Your message isn't threatening. My message isn't threatening. I mean, that's ridiculous. Controlling, coming from pressure, from being critical and suspicious. Those are the under the line, and people won't listen. They won't listen to you, and they sure won't listen to me because their ability to listen at a higher frequency is enhanced. So me, other people who do really good above the line work, and that's the gray line. I always call everything above that is high frequency.
Yeah.
So other people that are doing above the line work, um, will people will get attracted to them. And that's the good news is people, the way that I coach, if you didn't have some basis and spiritual grounding of some kind, now you may not know about it, you might not be real aware of it, but you couldn't put up with me for seconds. It
Yeah.
would be, it's like they'd turn off your podcast. They'd go like, what's that nonsense?
Yeah. Yeah.
It just wouldn't ring true. And that's perfect because
Yeah.
then they can't, they're not ready to hear that message. That's all. So no make wrong, just actually, the studies again are 90% of the world population stays in that swirl. 10% will ask the questions above the line, above the bridge on that ask, what am I passionate about? Do I have a vision? I'm willing to discover my purpose. Totally different inquiry.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Well, I'm glad I'm part of the 10%.
I know you're doing good work in the world. I know that's what we're all here for, is to make the difference um, that our world is ready for now. We're ready for positivity, for doing the right thing, for people doing work they love, going to work and feeling healthy and happy instead of drained and beaten up. I mean, that is just so not working. And you found your lights on and you're doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. I'm happy you bumped into me energetically. So that,
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. It was meant to be. Everything
yeah,
that you said resonated, and just that visual you showed. It made so much sense of what's happening in my life in the last few years. It puts words to it. So thank you so much. And
You are
thank you for
so welcome.
explaining. Where can everyone find you?
Find me at getclarity.com. And I'm on, YouTube and all over the place. Email me and if at Cathy Hawk at getclarity.com. And those are screened, so you don't have to worry. If they just say, I heard you on Megan's podcast, I want to ask you a question, I'm glad to answer anybody's question. I mean, you don't have to pay me to get an answer.
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out. Sometimes people are hesitant to do that, and that's an offer that I always leave open because the best thing is for people to get the answer that works for them in the moment because we don't have yesterday and we don't have tomorrow. We're in present time.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. And I will have Kathy's information at the bottom of this episode. Thank you so
Good.
much for joining, Kathy.
Good. Thank you. Keep doing your work in the world.
Thank you. I will. Thank you for listening. If something resonated, follow along and share this with someone who needs a new perspective. The views shared are personal to each guest and are simply their own, and these conversations are not a substitute for a medical or professional advice. Thank you for tuning in.